Hello, friends. I know you have not seen my face in a while. I thought for spooky season this year, I would do something a little bit creepy for you all and just disappear. No, actually, it was not planned. I had videos planned. I even filmed one of them and then determined that I looked like a thumb and could not use the footage, and then just never got back around to filming. My life has been really, truly in shambles. We moved. My class was ending, so I had a ton more work. My job changed. My dog was in the hospital. We had a bed bug scare. We had a mouse. I got sick twice. So I have just been going through it, and really only in the past week have things kind of been settling down. Thankfully, that did not mean that I wasn't reading, though. I was still reading, even though I was just so mentally overloaded. It was really just the filming and executing of videos that was just too much for me for a while. So I'm sorry to have missed the entire month of October, but I don't know. This is a good time also, though. It's still kind of cozy feeling books is what I really like at this time of year. I'm really excited for the Goodreads Choice Awards to be starting to happen. I love the mess that always is. So there's a lot of good things, and I really am truly happy to be back, especially for today, because I'm doing something that I've never done. I made a point this year to really read a lot of books that I felt like suited the spooky season, right? I like scary books. I like thriller-y type books. I like books that just feel really cozy. So I put an emphasis on trying to read a lot of those for the past couple months. And I feel like I really read some bangers. But at the same time, I also read some not so bangers. So I thought that this would be a really easy time to do a ranking video. And so that's what we're going to be doing. I have 16 books on this list that I will be ranking. I also have one honorable mention. So there were, quite a few things I feel like that I've read that would suit this vibe. I did read other things. I'm not planning on doing any wrap-up or reviews for the other things that I've read. If you're interested in reviews of the other stuff that I've read, because I have read some other good things recently, I might start doing some little mini reviews on my social media, so you can always go check that out. It's always in the description. And it would also just encourage me to start doing that more, because I am not really a social media person, especially in the last month. I've just been completely absent even from that. So you can always check in with me there, which has made me realize that I forgot to introduce myself yet again, like I always do. I'm Nova, and this is Off My Rocker Reading. So yeah, like I said, 16 books. I think we should just really get started. I'm going to shout out this little honorable mention. This was my only DNF in the past little bit, and that was Cuckoo by Gretchen Felker Martin. You might know that author because Manhunt was her other book, and it was, I feel like I saw it a lot of places. I didn't read that one. I was much more intrigued by the premise of this one, so I picked it up. I started listening to the audiobook, and it was really unfortunate because it gripped me right away. There's the beginning part of it that is just kind of giving you an idea of what's going on, and the horror just ramps up really, really well, and it had me. And then it cuts off, and we start going into the rest of the story with all these other characters and stuff, and it just immediately lost me. Again, it is one of those books where there's a million characters and we're just bouncing between all of them, and I loathe that. I won't read it. I DNF this partially and largely just because of that. The other thing for me was just, it's very much written with these characters trying to be kind of edgy and gross. That's the vibe, And I was just not vibing with it. I don't like that very much. Just that kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. I think it's an attempt to be gritty and offer real characters, but they just all kind of sucked is really how I was reading it. And it was I don't really like anyone or care about anyone because we're also just moving so quickly between different people. So it was a miss for me, but gay like conversion therapy horror is something that really does need to be tapped into more, though. I wish that this was a hit for me because I am so interested by that premise. So then getting into the actual list, number 16 is one of the easiest things I've ever had to put last on a list ever in my whole life. It was a terrible romance book that I read. It was a little romance that I picked up because I was really in like a romance mood because of a couple other books on this list, which is, if you know me, you know that is so rare. So I picked this up. I just wanted a cozy fall romance type thing, witchy vibes, right? So I picked up Witch of Wild Things, Wild Magic, #1 by Raquel Vasquez I really don't know how to say that. I truly do not in any way, shape, or form. I am so sorry. This book was just so dumb because the main character has these like witchy plant powers, and her like siblings and aunt or whoever it is, like, or cousins or something, also have like these witchy powers, different ones. Okay, one of them is like Peppa from Encanto, and the powers and everything that had to do with that were so inconsequential, it did not even need to be in the book. The main character literally could have just been a normal person who just knew a lot about freaking plants, and it would have been literally the exact same. It was not delivering on the witch aesthetic that I was looking for, right? So whatever. But then also, I did not like the main couple at all. I didn't like either of them separately. I didn't like them together. I found them very annoying. And I did not feel it. And I was reading these other books with romance that like I was really like feeling. And that's why I wanted to read a romance. And then this just like, it totally ruined it for me. So number 16, that. Number 15, this was a close call for this could have been dead last, unfortunately, was Death at Morning House by Maureen Johnson. Ugh. If you know who that is, then you know that is the Truly Devious author, which is why I'm so sad to say that this was not a hit. I read Truly Devious at the peak of that hype, right? Like, as they were coming out, like, I was the target audience. I was reading them. I ate that series up. I think that it actually truly, like, paved the way for some of my taste now, just in terms of like mystery and thriller and stuff, because that was such a solid series. And I really feel like this book was just an attempt to replicate the Truly Devious hype, and it was just a really poor attempt at doing that, in my opinion. It was just so blah, right? Like, there were a ton of characters that just kind of like we got introduced to all at once, and then it just makes like, it's a short book anyway, so you just kind of not really end up caring about anyone. And it was just kind of obvious in terms of the murder mystery and everything. Again, it was short, and it wraps up right at the end of this book. It just did not capture the magic that I think that it was attempting to capture, which is sad, but, it is what it is. Let things just be good and, like, let go of them. We don't need to do any more of it. Number 14 was another one that I was super excited for. I've been really into, like, vampire books. I love that that's getting a kind of resurgence, this like vampire media that we're seeing. So I was really excited for Rachel Harrison's So Thirsty. I really, really liked Rachel Harrison's cackle because it was towing the line kind of between being like spooky, but like still being like cozy. And again, like offering like witchy vibes and everything. And I love that. So I really enjoyed that one. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. I hated Black Sheep. I read that in January, I think, and it was one of the worst books that I have read this year, truly. I was not a fan of that at all. So, I thought I'd give this a chance. I love the vampire avenue that it was going down, and I just kind of found it to be really unfocused. I think that there was all of this messaging going on that was like an attempt at the main character having these kind of like feminist epiphanies and stuff, but there were so many different epiphanies that she was having that it just felt like her character arc like lacked direction. Like, I feel like this book did not know what it wanted to say, so it just said kind of a whole word vomit, like a ton of things, and it just made it really like, what's the theme here? What's the arc for this character specifically? You know, it felt really like all over the place, and just didn't really go in a satisfying direction for me. So unfortunately, that is having to land at number 14. After that, I read this book. It was a recommendation from Carrie Can Read. And I know in my heart of hearts that it does not deserve to be this low on the list in terms of like, it's not that it was poorly written. I just hated it. I literally just, from the moment I started the audiobook to the very end, could not stand anything that was going on. That was Your Blood, My Bones by Kelly Andrew. How to explain myself. I did not like any of the characters. I found the situation that they were in, right, the premise, to be so good, and just like wild. But then once I was listening to the story, the way that these characters were reacting to the things that were going on, I just found to be so inconceivable. Like, I'm like, what? In what world would a human being of human nature react to what's going on in front of them in this way? Like, it felt so incredibly far-fetched to me in that sense that I just didn't like anyone. And I didn't really, honestly, they were kind of toxic. Like, the romance, I was just like, ew, you guys are like really mean to each other. Like, it's just not, it wasn't doing it for me. And then again, this isn't a spoiler because it's literally how the book opens up. She like enters this manor and there's just like her childhood friend chained up in the basement. Like, and the way that she reacts, she's just like, starts asking him questions and having this whole dialogue and then getting mad at him, and then she like leaves him, and I'm like, in what world would you not see that and be like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Like, right? Like, you would immediately, I think any human being truly would immediately spring into some kind of panic and action. So, I just did not like it, and because of that, I'm putting it at number 13. I don't care. I hated it. And then at number 12, a book that, again, it doesn't deserve to be super far down on this list because it was a bad book. It just didn't deliver enough on the vibes that I was looking for, and that was A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher. This ended up feeling much more like a summertime read. It felt much more bright and summery and sunny and everything, and I was really looking for like cozy fall. But then even on top of that, even the haunted house stuff, it didn't go in the spooky type direction that I was looking for it to go in. So it was good. It was just kind of meh good, like just kind of middling, I feel like. So that's why I'm going to put it at number 12. But T. Kingfisher shows up on this list a couple more times. So hang in there because I do love her. At number 11, I put Monstrous. This is a graphic novel by Marjorie M. Liu. And I took this recommendation from The Plant-Based Bride, I believe. I think she's talked about this book a couple times. And I'm putting it at number 11 for me because I really read it and I can recognize that it's good. But really, at the end of the day, it's just not my cup of tea, I think is the best way to sum it up. It's not my cup of tea. I'm realizing I'm really just not into kind of high fantasy packed into like dialogue where like I have to read between the lines of everything and like put these pieces together to like build this like extremely complex world. It's like, it just doesn't do it for me. The mental energy that I have to expend in order to do that, to understand what's going on, is not something that I want to do. I'd rather read a novel and even a high fantasy novel where I'm reading the explanation of all of these things in prose, even if that's 1,000 pages long. I would prefer that to having to read between all the lines. Also, this is a very violent series, and I was having trouble with that personally. It was a little bit too much for me because I'm pretty sensitive to stuff like that, though, so, like, I'm not the best gauge. Like, you will probably be fine, but I just can be really squeamish. So, yeah, that's why I'm putting it at number 11. I know that there is an audience who would love this series. I think that just it's not for me. Next, at number 10, I'm putting Mistress of Lies by K.M. Enright. I was excited for this. I was kind of in the mood for something fantasy. And again, this is something that plays on kind of vampire-esque aesthetic and blood magic and everything. And that was really cool. I think that I just felt super, like, in the middle about this book, which is why it kind of comes more in the middle of this list. It didn't blow me away in any way. I did really like, and this is surprising for me because usually I don't, but this has kind of a throuple plotline and dynamic going on between the three kind of main people. They're all just kind of into each other, and I actually thought that it was done really, really well, and made a lot of sense, and like I was like feeling it, and I got it, you know. And I think that because it did it so well, I was kind of upset when it went in the direction that it did, like, at the end. And then it also just very much cuts off on a cliffhanger, like, you really need to read the second book to, like, get any closure or anything. And I just wasn't that, like, thrilled with it in general anyway. So it's like, I don't know if I really even want to read the second book. I don't know. I feel kind of conflicted about it. I think maybe I would want to get a chance, but yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's definitely a number 10 book for this list of mine. And then kind of getting even more into the middle of this list, number 9, I put My Throat, an Open Grave by Tori Bovalino. I think this was actually another Carrie recommendation, and I like this one much more. I have heard in multiple places that it kind of has like Ethel Cain vibes, which I think is really cool, and I was very intrigued by that. Interestingly enough, I actually found the romance to be the most compelling part of this story for me, and I actually feel like it ended up kind of under-delivering on the Ethel Cain religious trauma portion of the book, and just kind of wrapped up a little bit too conveniently at the end, where I think we could have gotten more into that. But I do think the romance was really good. I really liked the romance in this book. I liked the two main characters together and just their tension and everything. And this was one of the reasons why I was like wanting more like romance. So this one, I liked it. I think I just read some like really, really good things, which is why it's this far down on the list, but it was pretty solid overall. And then at number 8, how apt that this is just at the dead center of this list, because it was so incredibly mid. But I'm saying mid here, like mid derogatory, because I was truly, if you don't follow me on social media, if this is the first time you've ever seen me, you probably do not know, but this was the most anticipated book of this year for me. I can pretty confidently say there's 2 on this list. The other one I'll get to, it's much higher up, that were like my most anticipated books of this year, and I really was just underwhelmed by this book, and that is A Dark and Drowning Tide by Allison Saft. The premise, sapphic, dark academia, magical creatures and stuff, so good, right? They're going on like this expedition. I think that that's a great plotline. I was very, very compelled in every way by this story, including the fact that it was written by Allison Saft. I was super pumped for this. So when it was just kind of mid, I was pretty disappointed. There's really a lot that I could say about it, but I don't really want to go on a whole spiel about everything. So I guess what I will say concisely is I feel like this book should have been a duology. Like, I think that that is a great way to sum up the problems with this book. It should have been a duology. Because there was so much setup at the beginning,
And then we start this expedition and we just are kind of meandering our way through it and taking so much time that by the time we actually got to some of the important stuff towards the end, I'm in the last 15% of the book. And I'm like, how are we wrapping this entire thing up in 50 pages? How? And it didn't really in a satisfying way. It should have been an entire other book. I don't understand how they find this well of unending, ununderstandable, incomprehensible magic, and it just is able to be defeated and contained and wrapped up in 20 pages. And that went for the romance too. The romance was just snap and it was happening. And the murder mystery aspect of it as well, I just felt wrapped up in the most predictable way possible. Of course it was the one person that they didn't really suspect the entire time. Hello. And then just truly though, the most baffling aspect to me was the fact that we're apparently pro-colonialism at the end of the book. Because I literally think just because we did not have enough time to then go back home and overthrow the corrupt king, so the characters just make this baffling choice to be we're gonna back him with this now unending power that we have. We'll back him. What are we doing? Odd choice. That truly, again, I think could have just been solved if we had 300 more pages of a different book. Number 7. I am putting this at number 7, even though I don't think that it was an entirely successful book. I do think it kind of puttered out by the end, but it truly scared me. Which is why I'm putting it up here, and I loved the inspiration and the concept. So at number 7, I have The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. This is a very bizarre book. The direction that it goes ends up being just very strange and bizarre. And that's why after reading her author's note, I understood a lot more what even was going on, because it's based on a short story that was by this other guy that then this other guy had a theory about, and it's based on all of that. So it's kind of convoluted in that way. And it's basically her take on it. And although I don't think it was entirely successful, I do think some of the scary elements were very visceral and scary. So I really appreciated that. That was what I was looking for at that moment in time. So I am putting it a little higher up at number 7. And number 6, my other most anticipated book of this year, like I said before, was Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. I love a little Shakespeare. I love a little Macbeth moment, I love Ava Reid's stuff. So I was really excited for this. This was another book where I felt it should have been longer. It was really the summation of my complaint about it, because it again, she's creating this really, really interesting world that she had to take time at the beginning to set up. So then it just kind of felt it just wrapped up really quickly. It wraps up really quickly. The romance amps up really quickly. And in this case, I don't think it needed a whole other book. I think it needed even 100 more pages. I would have liked it to be a longer novel, because, her writing is so good. I really liked her characters and the romance and everything, and thought that it was really successful in its themes and ideas. So I really liked it. I think that she always just impresses me with her themes. Not to be redundant, sorry, but just with the themes and how they track from beginning to end of the novel. I just think she really masterfully is able to weave those things into weave the big ideas of her stories. So I really like this. I don't think that it was perfect, but it was good for me, in my opinion. So that's that. Number 5. Oh, this one makes me so mad because it truly could be number 1 on this list. It had all the elements of just being so good, and then it just was so disappointing. So that is The Bog Wife by Kay Chronister. So I love some gothic fiction, right? Love it. And I was super excited for this, very intrigued by the Southern Gothic premise. And I started reading it, and truly, so well written, such what's the word I'm looking for? Such just great characters that I really like felt for and was rooting for. She just wrote them so well where I could really empathize with each one of them for whatever different reason. And just like so creepy and strange and just such great everything. It was such great setup and premise and everything. The writing, just all of it was so good. I was reading it and I was like, this is going to be one of my best books this year. Like, this is so good. It's about these 4 siblings, and very quickly, these weird pacts that they have with this bog that they learn from their father, who was abusive after he dies. Stuff just starts to unravel. And I love plots where it's just like nothing is as it seems, and kind of everything was a lie, or everything is different than we thought, or whatever. Like, I love that like mind blow element of stories. And I was so disappointed when, instead of getting that kind of plot, which was kind of reminding me of if you know, like Shay Earnshaw's one book, whatever it's called, I'll put it up here, like that, where it's just like nothing is as it seems and everything is like, whoa, like I love that. And that's what I thought this was giving me. And then all of a sudden it switches again and everything is as it seems. And actually we're going to get this like incredibly bleak ending where, I guess very like, Gothic style ending, which maybe that's the point. And I understand that. I can get why, if that's what we're going for, why that was the choice. But I think that it just could have done something really cool. Like that one book I said, like Piranesi. I just think it could have packed a punch that it ended up not packing, because instead it was just like sad and gloom and like, well, this is our generational trauma, and so this is how everything's gonna end. But I just felt really disappointed. I felt like you just created such an interesting premise and interesting characters and interesting world just to kind of ultimately like do nothing with it, So at number 3, I have Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead. And this was really good. I was pleasantly surprised by this, actually. It also deals with kind of like Southern corrupt church culture. And it's not spooky as much as it is like thriller-y. It has like some kind of like creepy themes, but it's in a bigger picture sense. Like, it's not literal like creepy stuff. It's more just like what these people like believe that ends up really being what's so terrifying, I think. And that's kind of the point. The main character is kind of obsessed with like Twilight. So there's like just these kind of themes of like her kind of embracing like the darkness in this world that only, talks about light, but like is actually really dark and corrupt. Like, I just found the themes and ideas really compelling. And it just had such a perfect and beautiful ending. I really do believe that. It to me, this was a 5-star book. This was like, I don't think that there could have been anything better about this book. I think it was perfect as it was for what it was, and I love that. So, would highly recommend this story. It is heartbreaking though. Like the romance and everything, it's heartbreaking. And then at number 3, I have to put this here because it was just so immaculate, even though it was spooky. Like there ended up being some spooky stuff and everything, but I guess not really necessarily should maybe go on this list, but whatever, it's my video. So that's A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. Oh my gosh, I loved this book. It's crazy how much I love this book, truly. I was just gripped. I loved the characters. I love books where it's like all these people are in a manor and they have like guests that come and stay for weeks and it's just people having conversations and things happening. I love books like that. I loved the creepy elements. The creepy elements were creeping. They were doing the thing. And, there is magic and stuff and witchy kind of stuff. It was just so good. I was like near tears at the end because I was so sad that it was over. Like, that was like my only thing is like, I wanted to see the characters go on to have their happy endings. We know what was going to happen to them, and it does turn out and have this like happy ending, But I loved everybody so much by the end of it that I was like, I want to see her grow up and like be happy and like get married. Like I want to see all of it. And I think that's such a wonderful thing about the books that T. Kingfisher writes, is just such likable characters that I appreciate so much. I love having characters with depth, but are still people to root for, you know? And I really, 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 really loved this book. It's definitely my favorite by T. Kingfisher, even above like What Moves the Dead and everything. And I really love that series too. So it is an easy number 3 for me. But number 1 and number 2 are so hard for me because I really feel like they're interchangeable. They are both so strong, but just so different that it's really hard for me to like put them one over the other. I think I'm settled on my decision for how I'm doing it for this video, but you can argue with me in the comments if you think I'm wrong.
Yeah, I gotta do it.
So at number 2, I'm sticking with it. I'm going for it. At number 2, I am putting We Used to Live Here by Marcus Cleaver. Holy shit. This book was crazy. This book was just in every way catered to me. Like, truly, it has all of the elements that I just find most interesting. Like, it was tailor-made from Nova for offmyrockerr reading, because I was in love with it. I loved it. I listened to the audiobook. I loved it. I loved how it ended. It was so interesting. It kind of gave me, like, Dark, Netflix's Dark, that show. I love that show. It was kind of giving me those vibes. Easy, 5 stars. Loved it all around. Just such a trippy mind bend, but also like scary book. Like I loved it. The only thing I will say is literally, why are there not more books like this? Because this put me a little bit in a reading slump, just because I consumed it so fast, and I was so, like, this just has such a high bar for, like, absolutely, like, melting my brain that, like, nothing was satisfying me after that. So I loved this book. I think that this is crazy that this is, like, his first, but this is a debut, too, which is crazy. And honestly, I'm gonna start some beef right now. I don't understand the people in the reviews that are like, it has some plot holes, but the plot holes, it's how? What plot hole? Actually, truly, if you are watching this right now, what plot holes? Tell me. Because I don't really think with this kind of magic / sci-fi, these sorts of like elements, like what plot holes? You can just ascribe something that you don't understand to like, well, that's just how it works. Like, that's kind of the point of like this, like, cosmic horror. Like, really, that's what it is at the end of the day. It's like this cosmic, unfailing, unending, like, undefeatable horror, and that's what's partially scary about it. So to me, it's like silly to be like, oh, the plot holes, because like you can just attribute anything that you consider a plot hole and be like, well, but it does work, like that's how it works, right? So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. That's my number 2. And at number 1, I have to put Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward, because once again, just like mind blown. Like, this was so good. And the reason that I think that for me it edges out We Used to Live Here is I really feel like the writing is just on another level. Like, the writing is so just well crafted, and the way that this author like breadcrumbed for us all these like crazy things, and like you just threw us off the trail, and like you don't really know what's going on, and it just wraps up in such a crazy way. And again, I just love books that just like melt my brain like that. And this really did that for me, but in just more of like a sophisticated sense, and in a way that is still kind of sympathetic and like makes you think as well. So yeah, it has to be at number 1. And I'm literally not kidding you. I'm about to binge all of Catriona Ward's books after this because I'm just so interested in what else her brain has come up with. And I'm so happy that she has like 4 or 5 other books, because it's exactly the type of book that I'm looking for and that I feel like I love just the most out of anything, other than a good old-fashioned mystery, which I am also getting into some of those. So anyway, I digress though. I think that's it. That is my official 16 book ranking. Let me know if you think that I am wrong or if you agree with me. I would love to know. Or if you have any recommendations that like fit any of these things that I liked or whatever. I would love that. I always appreciate that. And let me know even what your like favorite spooky season book was, or if you have any like cozy fall recommendations. That is truly what I am looking for right now. So, yeah, let me know. I am very happy to be back. I have more videos coming soon. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you stuck with me this whole way, I appreciate you. Love you. Mwah. I hope to get a more solid background once I'm a little more moved in. But I'm not gonna lie, the rocker in Off My Rocker is truly, it's on its last legs. It's like barely on its last legs. So not sure what anything is going to look like in the future, but we'll see. I think that's all I have for you guys. Yeah, because I could just like yap forever, but you know. See you soon. Bye.